Hello, everyone. This is the lecture I'm holding, the Nordic Go Dojo lecture on uncertainties and risks. And yeah, we have had some technical problem. That's why we're like half an hour late, but that's no problem. I can still, hold it now. And I hope you guys are still there and have time to watch the lecture. Otherwise, this lecture always gets uploaded on YouTube afterwards. So for the people watching it on YouTube later, this probably doesn't matter. So yeah, good for you. Okay, let's talk about this weird lecture topic, uncertainties and risk. So when I watch players' games and I see some, when I review some games or I teach Go, I often see that people are taking big or small risks and they are not really good at, oftentimes they're not really good at evaluating what does this risk mean, or what does it actually, how risky is this situation, and is it only risky for me or is it risky for both? And that's why I think this topic is quite important and a new angle to think about when playing, because many people think about very specific things, maybe some Joseki variations or some things their teacher told them you should care more for weaknesses and you should care more for weak groups. But in all of these considerations, there's also the consideration of risk, and that's why I want to talk about this. Uncertainties, yeah, that's a bit of a different word there. The question is, what does uncertainty mean in Go? So if you can maybe think about what could there be as an uncertainty? I mean, in Go, everything is uncertain, and what I want to give you as an example, for example, there is code. If there is a code, it is always pretty uncertain how things will go, because there is the possibility that black wins the code, then there's the possibility white wins the code. So that's already two factors, and then there is so much uncertainty on what co-threat will the player get. So there are so many possibilities already. So when we talk about uncertainty, we talk about lots of possibilities. Then there is, for example, invasions. If somebody invades Moyo, there's a lot of uncertainty actually, because you don't know if you can survive, and you're taking a risk there, but in some cases it is actually very easy to survive, so then the uncertainty is a bit less. Let me actually see if there's any comments already, because this is the first time I'm streaming by myself, so be patient with me, guys. I hope you can enjoy the stream even though I'm alone. Yes, all right, I can see some comments now. That's all set, and now let me go back to the topic. So whenever you feel like you have a question or something, you can just ask and I will answer you. And yeah, let's go back. So invasions is always involves a lot of uncertainty. Oh, hey, Oscar, you're also there. To the topic. Fighting groups. Whenever you feel like you have, for example, semi-ice. Wait, let me turn off the volume. Yeah, let's go back. So invasions is always involves a lot of uncertainty. Oh, hey, Oscar, you're also there. To the topic. One second. Whenever you feel like you have, for example, semi-ice. For example, turn off the volume. Somehow I'm hearing myself a lot.
Sorry.
I don't understand.
Sorry, this is Antti over here. I just fixed it. Sorry about that.
All right. So now we can go back to the topic like this. Okay. Throughout the lecture, I've prepared many examples where we will talk about this. So don't worry. I'm in the beginning always talking about the theories, and then later I will show many examples and mostly actually all from my own games, because I believe it is the most efficient to talk about lecture topics not only theoretically, because if you read a book there will always be so many variations that are oftentimes a bit made up. So we will look at actual game examples and how we can deal with uncertainty, how we can create uncertainty, because that is something that's very important, how we can lower the uncertainty, and when we should do what. Because as you have probably already noticed, there are different player types in this sense. There are people that actually like to resolve situations quickly and to be safe. So they actually don't like uncertainty, because they're good at having certain things, they're good at certain type of games where things are clearer. And then there's the player type of people that actually want to create a mess, and they want to actually increase the uncertainty. So they will and that is something that you probably have noticed already, and you can ask yourself, what kind of player am I? Am I maybe the type 1 player that likes to resolve things quickly, or am I a type 2 player who likes to create uncertainty a lot? And you have to be careful with this, because you might have a clear answer for yourself, but you actually need to be able to do both. Because Go is such a complicated game that when you always do one thing, you cannot go above a certain level and above a certain ability. Because imagine you're behind and you're the type 1 player that likes to make things very certain. How can you actually come back from the game? Because you're behind and you are clearly don't have enough points. So you have to create something for the opponent to actually be nervous, to actually be in trouble somewhere. If the opponent always knows what to do and everything is very certain, then you will just lose because you were behind. So this is already something in general that we can remember. When you're behind, you should increase the uncertainty, and you should also increase the risk factor of yourself. And especially for yourself, but also for the opponents. That's the key here. You always want to increase the uncertainty for the opponent. So create cutting points, invade somewhere very deep. So if you die, you lose the game, but you were anyway behind. But maybe if you can survive, and the opponent will be very nervous, you can actually come back and win the game still. So that is when you're behind. What about when you're leading? Then you should, if possible, lower the uncertainties and make clear exchanges, save your groups, for example, defend cutting points. Of course, you should never do it too much, because then it can be like you play slow moves and the opponent can come back. It is always about how much you're leading, but in general, that's the idea, because when things get certain, you will keep your lead on points. So let's actually maybe dig into some examples that I've brought. So this situation, let me go back a bit. White has just played here, and now Black yeah, let's actually look at the situation a bit. I mean, it is not really clear who is leading. There's this co-fight going on in the future, and it is very big. So let's actually talk about the options. If black Ataris, white only has one option, which is to capture, then black will connect because that is his threat. White Ataris and black captures. So we have this direct co. And now white can play a threat. This co is very big, so it is quite likely that whichever threat white plays, black will not answer it. So let's imagine, white plays maybe in here. Would you answer this? I wonder. Do you believe one can answer this? Because if we look at this co-fight, it is worth what? It is like 40 points. So it is pretty huge. But if you have the co-threat yourself, then you can do it. But I wonder what's the threat? There's no real threat here. You can play here. Maybe this one white wants to answer because white has one more threat here, clearly. If you answer the other one, then you will also answer this one. But the next one is not a threat anymore, and white will capture. So actually, what my point is in this variation, things were pretty certain for white here. Even though it is relatively complicated and it is a co-fight, white could calculate this relatively early when white started this co, because white knew, okay, like this, I will definitely get my first threat here, and then things will be like this. Now black has to survive here. White can block, like theoretically still has to add a move here, and then white can continue playing. And actually like this, white is maybe better. Yeah, white is probably better. I checked this also with the AI. So what could black have done? In this moment, what black did in the game was to play somewhere else. Now, this might not actually be the best move or the move that Lila would suggest, but it was definitely complicated for me, because if we look at this, if white captures now and black plays elsewhere, white still has to add a move at some point to capture the group. So white has to play twice. But if white doesn't, black can start the ko again, and now it is a two-stage ko. So what is going on? It is very unclear. White might play some threat, and then maybe black starts the ko again. So this is one example of how black could create a big uncertainty with this ko. So that is often the case. You can start the ko right away, or you can wait and hope that the opponent plays twice. So imagine this would have happened. Now white is nervous. I want to finally finish this. I want to be certain that I win the ko. Let me capture. And now black plays Satari, and actually like this, white got kind of robbed a bit. Black is leading now, or black gained from this exchange. I'm not sure if black is leading, but that black tricked white, one could say. So yeah, that is for one example for uncertainty in codes. Let's go to the next example, which is this one. This is a game I played against Jeff. You all know him. It was a quick game, so And also at this point, I'm already in the Byoyomi. That is always a problem for me, but for everybody, it is a problem. I mean, Byoyomi is very difficult, so we have some different kind of rules. So when you're in Byoyomi, that there are different theories, but in general, it is the case that you don't want to take too many risks because you cannot handle it. If you're if you're playing so risky all the time, you actually need to read the whole sequences and you need to know how to handle it. And that is something you might only be able to do in a quick time setting. So let me show you what I did in this game. I made a mistake. White Atari tier, and I was afraid to go out because, let's see, for example, if white plays here, I wasn't sure if I can survive with everything. So let's say, for example, this Atari, white connects. Now I have to add move, and now white goes up. So like this, seems like I lost something. Maybe I can play here and then get out. This would already have been not bad for black. But in this fast time setting, I was afraid. So what I did was I tried to make things more certain. I Atari here, this, and then I don't even remember, something like this. But now white clearly gained. But if we go back to the situation where I ran out, let's look at this from white's perspective. Imagine you're white and you're under time pressure. How would you feel now? It is actually the case that also white is quite afraid of this. It is not really clear for white as well. So in this situation, I made things certain, but I made things certain for both, and I made things better for white. So that's, of course, something you should avoid. And in the Byoyomi, you should also evaluate this. So you can have the judgment, okay, this is risky for me, but I can quickly read a little bit, maybe like this. Okay, for white, it is not easy to kill me because maybe like this is already some kind of a semi-eye, and it will get at least complicated for both. And that is very important. So you can, whenever you consider risk, you have to consider it for both. I see many players creating risk, and then they think, this was risky for me, but come on, it must also be risky for the opponent. So why did I get crushed? It is oftentimes because the players didn't realize that this risk was risky for both, not for both. It was risky only for themselves. For example, an invasion in which somebody invades really deep, the one who is invading can directly be at risk if they die. So, but the one who gets invaded can oftentimes make some kind of a compromise. Okay, I let you live very small, but I get some influence and I can create somewhere else, some big moyo somewhere else. So it is oftentimes the one who is invading doesn't have a choice and is complete at risk to lose the game, because if they die, they lose. But the opponent actually is not so much at risk. So that is something you want to avoid if it is possible. And you should always try to create risk for both. And this is an example of in which I made things certain for both, but I basically accepted the worst result. And that's something you shouldn't do. All right, that's this example. Let's keep going. Wait, this is something we have looked at already. Okay, let's go. Okay, we have all these whole trees here. Yeah, this example. Okay, so what is going on here? Black has this group and this cutting point, but black also has this cutting point. White has the weak group here if black gets to connect everything. And white, in theory, also has a problem with this group if black can invade in the corner. So there's lots of stuff going on. And I was black and I had to make a choice here. So let's look at this move, for example. So I defend my cutting point. And then also we shouldn't forget that there is a future problem maybe for white with this group. So that's also quite an uncertainty there. But okay, let's see what white can do as the next move. There's this wedge. And I read something about I can play here, I can drive, and then, well, I could Atari more, but maybe I don't want to. Let's see. I connect here. If white cuts, I can go through here. And actually, what is this? Did I misread here? Oh, wait. No, I think I didn't misread here. Let's say I read I read something, but it might be wrong. Yeah, actually, like this black might be dead. So that is quite uncertain to me, and I was almost about to play like this, I can tell you, because I read something like, okay, white cannot cut here, so I read something like white has to play something like this, and then white can play maybe here, and then I have to read about this cut and everything, and yeah, I was almost about to play this, so it is very nice that I didn't, and that's because in this variation there's lots of things that are uncertain and I'm quite at risk. So what so might be we need the terms like wide uncertain and deep uncertain. Yeah, so there is also the specific uncertain where there's reading involved and the non-specific uncertain, I guess. But what I played in the game was this move, so I defended this. And now things are a bit clearer. I sacrificed those stones, but now I get to invade the corner and I made things certain for me because, okay, I gave up my stones, but now the uncertainty and risk is on white. White has to see how he can handle this group. And in the game, actually, white could maybe have played like this and been a bit aggressive, like this. Maybe I can get like this, and then we don't know. Can white survive? Was this exchange good for white or for black? But my opponent was quite worried and wanted to make things certain for himself, so he played here and like this. Now I clearly gained. I got the corner in a huge way, and yeah, and white actually has to defend, so it was center. And about this group, I can still get some benefits with the liberties later. And yeah, so actually I was quite happy with this. So I put the uncertainty on my opponent, and if he would have resisted this corner invasion, I believe that the things would have been more complicated, and because this also brings uncertainty to me. The uncertainty here is well, if I don't get to kill, I might lose a lot on the left side, which was my framework. So actually, the opponent maybe should have done this because he didn't realize that he was afraid, but I was actually also afraid of this. And the moment he played here, everything got resolved and I'm happy. And he lost something. So yeah, that was quite a nice example of how you can simplify things. So we could say that the opponent's risk is something that maybe gives you an opportunity to make a profit. Yeah, that's also true, what Antti has written here. So what he's saying is, if you put the opponent at risk, even though you're at risk yourself, you can profit from their risk. Or what I did here, I profited from his risk. I reduced my risk with this move, and then I put the opponent to risk. So that is quite a powerful technique sometimes. Okay, let's continue. Yeah, this is just an opening example I find interesting. This lecture features so many of my games against other Nordic Go Dojo teachers. This is my game against Victor. Somehow I like those games because, yeah, it's quite some interesting players, let's say. So this Joseki is something many of you might know. It comes from, it is a more modern Joseki. Yeah, Victor, I took our game. So nowadays, the bot likes to play this attach, and then we can push in, and somehow white makes a weird shape, and I don't understand why anyone should like this for white, but okay, let's just accept that. And now I, as black, connected here and made this exchange. Oh no, actually white played the right move. Okay. And then I made this exchange certain. So that's something in the opening that you can always think about. I could have also said, okay, I don't do any exchange and I just keep on playing a normal big move. And then later on, if I want to, I can come from this side. What? This is a raid. What is a raid? I don't know what a raid is. Does it mean that people came here right now? Let me know, guys. I don't understand what a raid is. So let's keep going. I could have come from this side so that white later has to play here. So there I would have kept the uncertainty. Another stream. Okay, so we have a huge amount of viewers right now. Let me go back to explaining what we're doing here. We're doing an NGD lecture in Nordic Go Dojo. Go check it out. It is the best dojo in the market right now. I will objectively say as a Nordic Go Dojo teacher. So you can check it out. We have nice leads. We have reviews for everybody. And we have lectures every 2 weeks. And this is one of them. And this one is on uncertainties and risk, which is something that you will understand a bit more as I go through the examples. Yeah, I'm completely objective. So what I was saying is, in this game, I could have also kept the uncertainty in the opening so that later I have more potential moves here. And then maybe white had to play from this. But in this game, I felt like, okay, let me make things certain. I like the points. And here, maybe I can still come from here and make some mess. So yeah, here I decided to make things certain. So maybe you could say that actually I realize this right now, that I'm also a player that doesn't like uncertainty so much. So when you play against me, you should keep that into account. Okay, so that's just a quick opening example. This is also the opening, one could say, but well, what I did was not opening stuff. This is my game against the almighty Youngsam, Kim Youngsam, and I was white. So he had just played here. And I did something risky. I did this push and cut and what else. So it went something like this. Actually, I can show it in the next. Yeah, let me actually go to this. Maybe Kim is watching now. Well, let's hope he was watching, because he has for sure also something to learn about uncertainties, I guess. Okay, so this is the situation. What I did, I can show you guys. I pushed and cut. So somehow I thought that with this I'm risking. I know that I'm risking, and I'm risking a lot, because he's definitely stronger than me, and he is probably able to, in complicated situation, to read better than I do. But I wanted to directly go into the conflict. But what I didn't realize was that now, okay, so the game went on like this. The only one who is at risk is white. I might be able to, I actually survived. I pushed and cut and something, and it was something, well, for me complicated, not for him. But what is the fact that black is actually safe with all his group is what is important here. So I forgot about the proverb: if you put yourself at risk, the opponent should also be at risk, or else don't do it. Because in this situation, I could have kept uncertainty for him if I didn't do anything. So let's say I play just a normal big move. What do we play? This one. I like this one. Then he always has to worry about the fact that I can still create something with this push at d12. So he could have kept playing, but I can later do this as well. So there are many players actually that will just add a move soon. And then I'm also happy, because this move is a bit slow. It is maybe all right, but it is also slow, one has to admit. And that's why invasion points and potential going out with stones like these can also be kept, especially in the opening when things are still very broad, and there are lots of big moves. And yeah, you shouldn't risk only yourself. Black wants b14 at b15. Now let's see what does Oscar mean. Yeah, okay. So, well, I'm not actually sure about that, but so Oscar is saying that black wants this to be here. But well, that is just specific talk. Let's not dig into that. What is this game? Next example. So this is actually the game I played against Antti that is featured here. So another of the great Nordic Go Dojo teachers. Yeah, and this is my favorite example, because I've used it already in the last lecture I gave on invasions, and it is also a good example for uncertainties. Because let me show you. So this is a huge moyo. Moyo is also a big uncertainty factor. Antti is playing white, and I took cash, and I felt like this is getting too big now, so I have to invade. And what I did, let me show you what I did as a player who is quite afraid of uncertainty, actually, sometimes. So I just did a reducing like this, then attached, and I got some profit like this, because white is getting reduced, right? But imagine this for white. For white, this is so nice because, yeah, when you teach enough to reuse material, yeah, that happens for the first time today, but yeah, maybe it will happen more in the future. This is for white actually quite nice because white is getting very certain. It is not a moyo anymore. It is points, and it is a big amount of points. Maybe this, I mean, black is still fine. Black can still play and everything, but maybe I made it a bit too easy for the opponent. So what Antti suggested me to do later was some invasion, and some very deep invasion. So, for example, look at this. Because you always have to evaluate. The opponent is also afraid right now. If black just survives easily here, the game is kind of over for white as well, because white has nothing else than just a poor sun in the lower left corner. And if black manages to invade successfully, this game is also over in the other direction. If black dies, then it is also over. But when you have time on your clock, you can definitely do some deeper invasion like this. So we looked at many variations here, but for example, this already looks like black can do something. White might try to kill, but black can try to escape or later get this eye back. There's also a theoretical cutting point here. White can take the stone, but black can use these two moves to get advantage in the invasion. Another nice move is this one. This is a modern invasion move because the AI is somehow like this kind of shoulder hit invasion. Hi, Steven. Nice to see you. I haven't heard from you in a long time, unfortunately. But nice to hear from you now. Okay. The armpit hit is it called? Yeah, so it is basically the shoulder hit invasion from below, let's call it. Because it always has this honey and tiger's mouth. And this tiger's mouth offers a lot of resources. So if white tries to kill from here, there's a cut here. And for example, this also often involves this kind of ko. And if white does this, white is a bit crazy because if white loses this ko, black is living comfortably, and white doesn't have, I mean, white does have threats, but black can lose this ko, basically. Black can just play like this, and white didn't gain much because that was anyway white's moyo. So if we, for example, no. I mean, yeah, there are basically just many variations, but for white it is pretty hard to kill as well. We also looked at something else. Anyway, I might have deleted it. Also, you need to know your resources. There's also this move that black can use later, so maybe black even has some weird direct small living over here with something like this. This is so fun. Yeah, I can hear Jeff's voice saying this. I cannot imitate it though. I'm sorry if you guys wanted to hear that. Well, I cannot read this clearly, but maybe black got a sneaky living right here just by doing nothing. Also, there's this resource that black has. This, yeah, maybe it is alive already. Well, I should be a bit more accurate. Throw in first, and maybe something like this. It was just a very quick variation. But yeah, that is actually a a possible variation, even though it looks like black is crazy. So yeah, when there are moyos, you always have the chance to create the uncertainty and to invade deep but also for the opponent. But you need to. I mean, this comes with a lot of experience. You cannot just say you always have to do it. I'm anyway not a big fan of Go proverbs that are too generalizing in the sense of you always have to do this in Go. That's very hard to do, but that's why I'm holding a lecture on general rules, right? All right. Next example. Yeah, this. I saved this game as Matias against Amir, shame, because I lost this game quite shamefully, and we will see it later because my opponent was behind and was very good at creating uncertainty. So let's actually skip forward. Why am I going through the whole game? We come to this moment, maybe. Okay. White has the weak group in the center that is hard to kill right away. So I decided to do something else. Yeah, this game, Oscar. I'm reusing this one as well. I also had this in the other lecture. Yeah, games are so broad. There are so many toppings in just one game. So white is weak here, and black actually has just more potential and more points. There's the right side and yeah. So also on lila, I'm like at 80 or more percent. So what I should have done here, since I'm ahead, I should have reduced uncertainties. So what are the uncertainties in this position? There is some uncertainty on maybe this kind of a cutting point. Then we have, well, of course, this stone that kind of wants to be saved. And, well, another uncertainty is maybe this right side, because white can invade, and it is very unclear how black can kill it. So that is a big uncertainty. And then there's one thing that involves some reading. That is actually quite a big uncertainty that white has in this upper right, or in this upper. White can play this nice technique to actually potentially split the groups. So like this, white can capture here. With this Atari, white can do this weird way. And if black connects, white can play here. Very practical, and play Ko. But if white does it right away, it is just too big of a loss. But this is just an uncertainty that exists and that you should keep in mind. So even Antti missed this this variation. Yeah, so that's something that my opponent was looking at the whole time, probably during this game, as he realized that he was behind. So what I should have done, I should have probably just jumped out. And then my opponent plays maybe here to not get pincered. I can, well, yeah, and then I just invade this, maybe like this, and I continue relatively normally. I could also, yeah, well, probably I should just invade something. But like this, I made everything relatively safe. This uncertainty, this uncertainty is not really a big problem anymore because I can, well, if this stone is here and I do something else, I still have these resources to live, so I might even be cut off, and I do have enough time to do all of these. You cannot see the board. I hope that is only your problem. If not, tell me, guys.
Sorry about that. I got logged out of it. Just a moment.
Okay, the video froze.
Good thing I was here.
How about Q8?
Now I think it should be back. Can you try?
Yeah.
Yes.
So, okay, nice. Q8 I see as a move. I wonder, probably it is a suggestion for white. Is that so? Yeah, for white. So if you play this would actually be an interesting move to create uncertainties, and actually it is quite hard to handle, but you have to keep in mind that there is this center move that black has, so then it is very soon coming to something like this. So if like this, actually it is hard for black to manage, because there's also the uncertainty of white going out here. So this is actually probably quite a nice move that white can consider later. Yeah, and black has to maybe be a bit more realistic like this. And then, but this is hard. It's hard to kill this. White has quite some space. So yeah, very nice move. But let's keep talking about the left side and how I screwed up there. So let me show you what I did. I played this, and I had some offensive plans. So offensive plans when you're ahead can be good if you know that they work, but like this, well, actually it was quite some nice exchanges, but let's look at the next move and why it is terrible. I played this pincer instead of simply fixing this. And my opponent knew very well how to use this. So like this, it is still the same. I just made some exchanges. Actually, I made things even more certain for me. I made everything super safe. And now I can even invade more freely. I can maybe even play here. But what I did was this pincer. And now let's look at white's quality of using this weakness. So white goes out. So where are the uncertainties now? We have this group that has to survive. The shortage liberty here around 2 and 3. There is still this cut at 4. Theoretically, even this stone. And white has not so much to lose, because white has to just get some benefit, and white is even behind, so white has no fear here. But black does. Black has so many fears. I could tell you how many fears I had when I played this. So white attaches here. Nice move. Sent in. I try to give white few forcing moves only. And then white attached here. So the uncertainties are increasing. I try to connect here, but I mean there is a huge uncertainty now on this, and there is also this cut, so I'm really failing at decreasing the uncertainties. Also because, how about the cut at J7? Yeah, we will see it soon, actually, no worries. White peeped here, so as to use that cut, and is also threatening to connect to that other group that I was still planning to kill later. And so I cut here, but I create even more uncertainty, because there's this cut, and maybe later there can be this cut, which also creates the other weak group around those 4 stones. So black is completely losing control here, and that's something you should always avoid. Yeah, I had to cut, but then the shortage of liberties, and I had to come back here. And then I basically had to escape already. And black even cut here, so create even more. And then this, so white is playing really well in this sequence. White really knows how to make me nervous, and I failed in many sides because I was trying to keep everything. You cannot try to keep everything. I should have maybe, well, at this point it is already hard, but let's say, okay, make one defending move and then give this, or give this even, and then defend the other one, and then maybe try to come back. Now black is losing, but maybe black can still come back. But here I'm trying to hold everything, cutting, and white is just going through. And at this point, it is clear that black cannot do much anymore. I even tried, but white is completely alive. The left side is dying, the center is dying, and black even has this resource left that he played later. So yeah, this is quite a good example of how not to because yeah, when we talk about the proverb earlier, I created risk for myself, but the opponent actually didn't have much risk, just that one group, and he had just one thing to worry about. So that is also something that we can keep in mind in general. You should have one thing to worry about at a time, because, I mean, you cannot always have, but it is good to have that, because that means that the uncertainty is only on one thing. And if you have uncertainty on many things, it is very hard to keep track and to keep the control. And what I did here was basically create myself 5 uncertainties, and the opponent just has to worry about his stones. And yeah, that's how I lost this winning position, because I didn't just simply... So the conclusion also shouldn't be, I handled this the wrong way. The conclusion should be, I should have just defended. I see many people, also myself, being, no, it was fine, but I didn't manage the reading part. Well, maybe something earlier was too risky, and in this case it was this move. Okay, let's continue. What have we got here? Yeah, this is just...
just a moment. Who was the opponent in the previous game? We had a question in the chat.
The opponent was Amir Fragman. Yeah, from Israel.
Thank you.
He's very good at creating these kind of uncertainties. Yeah, this is just a game I played against Cornell Sensei, and I who was white? Okay, now I see the question. Now I see the... anyway, so this is just another opening example in which I created some certainty very early on by playing this variation. Maybe some of you know it. It is said that one shouldn't do this, but I like this because it is a huge influence I'm getting. And I'm erasing the uncertainty of black basically ever invading deep here. And I feel like I'm not really... This is not something I like so much when the opponent invades deeper. I'm afraid of it. So I created this variation in which everything is clear. It is probably Lila or the AIs would call this a mistake. Maybe even normal humans would call this a mistake. But it was something quite practical for me in this game, because I managed to make everything very clear, and then I could continue. And that's something that you can do if you feel like it, and if it's not losing too much, because what I'm losing here is actually limited, and the influence I'm gaining is huge. So yeah, just another opening example. And this game continued, of course, and it continued in this fashion. There's another example here, two more examples of this game. So this is the situation. White is behind slightly. I don't know by how much, but white is a bit behind. There's also this cutting point at A that is hard to handle. Black is pretty solid everywhere. So now I have to switch on the behind mode, and I have to create uncertainties. Do you have any move you want to play to create these uncertainties? So, for example, maybe if white was leading, white could have just played. Maybe white could have just defended this. White could have came at once, but it is already a little bit risky. But if defense, we go in once more and then defend in this kind of fashion. But I played a different move, which was actually pretty risky and probably not so, yeah, kind of an overplay I did, but it is important to have the skill when you're behind. H3, yeah, I like it. So this creates some potential follow-up in the corner. But experienced players, let's say, will not be too afraid of this shape, because it is something that has happened often, and they know how not to die. And Cornell is very experienced as a player, maybe even too experienced. And so this is something where I create something, but he can maybe even defend this cutting point that maybe you were aiming at, because there is also this cutting point existing or here. But yeah, this H3 is just a more normal move. Pushing O5. High enclosures are terrifying. Yeah, to some extent they are. O5, yeah, interesting. It is directly aiming at this cut and maybe the right side. So if maybe black plays here, there could be a cutting point right away. And this is not so easy to handle, but what black will do here is maybe to even just defend this. But then this move is also quite threatening. So I like this O5. It is interesting. Black doesn't have a very easy way out. Black has to think a bit further. Also, maybe this cut and then jump here. So there can be quite some fight coming next, and I like that. Nice suggestions. I played none of them. I played this move. So to create uncertainty on his right side, because if he cuts here, that's what he did actually. Let me show you the following. Hane and here. So threatening this connection at O5 that you also brought up in the chat. And invading at the same time and putting myself at big risk because there is this cut left. But let me show you how this continued. So the opponent had to connect and was afraid. Then I got to go in here a bit more and connect it here. Survive with this group. And now this cut is happening. And I had to gamble very hard here, but actually white managed to survive eventually relatively easily, and look at how black destroyed himself here by just dying with this group. This I just show for the fun of it, but also I show it for showing how quickly a situation can turn when you threaten the opponent. So he should have actually played a bit more severe. He let me get away with it a bit too easily. So that is something you have to keep in mind as the one who is leading. When the opponent is pushing hard, you cannot just defend. You have to, for example, this move, this cut was a bit easy for white. Maybe black should have extended, because that makes himself safer. And then, and not let himself be cut like this. Yeah, all right. So you have to be a bit more creative in that sense. And if black would have played here, then it is maybe just a small benefit I'm getting, but it is already something. Let's continue with this game actually and go to the final example. So I actually turned the game around, and now I'm leading big time. And Cornell decides that he has to kill me, and it's true, he has to kill the Sun. So at this moment, he is the one who is at risk, in the sense that he has to kill me, and I am the one who is at risk, who has to survive. But you always have to keep in mind that there's also maybe a third option, that I don't survive with this, but I reduce from the outside. So what I did here, I went into a completely uncertain field. I was also in Byoyomi. I don't remember the exact moves. It was something like this. He had to, I'm not giving him any options, because he has to always fight the strongest. And it went something like this, and this and this. And then it went on like this. So I had the judgment that I can live with this group, but I didn't manage. I died because I was also in Byoyomi, and I lost the game eventually, because I went into this very uncertain field. But I could have, for example, at this moment, so I played something like this to continue, and I made it even bigger. And then I could have also played from this direction. And we looked at this later also with Jeff when we reviewed this game, and it would have been enough to just sacrifice this. And that is something that I should have done, because I was leading, and I should have decreased the uncertainty when possible. Of course, if you cannot do this because now you will lose, you have to evaluate this. But during the game, I actually did, but I couldn't accept the fact that I cannot win with that I cannot survive with that group. Somehow a weird pride thing, because I wanted to survive, but I didn't think about actually winning. How about threatening to try to bring the 2 stones out with a move like O12? Yes, actually this move, for example, even now is very nice. The thing is, those 2 stones are, they are just points, because if I, say, connect them like this, black has killed these. I'm not sure, maybe you didn't see this, but the fact that black has killed these makes those 2 stones not so interesting anymore. So yeah, this is, I mean, we can also look at some variation, some other variations, maybe with another attach, but black will always have to fight the strongest. So that's for sure. But for example, I could also come from here and then threaten to connect. But this is also risky. If I look at it now, I shouldn't do this. Yeah, when things are uncertain and you don't know how they will go, you shouldn't go for them if you're just leading like that. So yeah, this game is quite a good example of how to deal with uncertainties, how to create them, how to decrease them. Yeah, that is also a factor I want to mention. When you're behind, you often want to create the uncertainty, and you should do that. But there are many games in which actually you get to you get the lead back, and then all of a sudden you're leading, but you're still in the mindset of creating uncertainties. So you keep on playing risky, but that's something you shouldn't do. You always have to reevaluate after each local fight, maybe. So there you had a successful invasion. It was risky, but you managed, and now you should go back to decreasing the uncertainties, because then maybe you're leading, and yeah, you should always reevaluate, and that's what many people forget, and they just keep playing uncertain. There was a game I have seen between Oscar and Ben Zero, in which Oscar was behind all the time, and he was very, very good at creating uncertainties. But Ben Zero didn't manage to keep calm. He was Ben Zero, by the way, is Benjamin. I shall not pronounce his last name because it is impossible. But Oscar was very well at creating the uncertainties, but Ben Zero didn't decrease them. He was always feeling provoked, and that is something that happens a lot. People feel provoked, so they want to kill the opponent. There is no way he can live here. I have to kill him now. So I play the strongest move, and then eventually there were so many exchanges, and he collapsed. And no, he didn't collapse. He lost by 1.5 points. But also Oscar at some point was leading again, and he still kept fighting the whole time, because the whole game he had played as if he was behind, and then it was really hard to drive back to the mindset of now I'm actually winning. And there was another exchange, and he could have easily lost that game. And that's something, I mean, I'm just taking this game as an example because it is such a nice example. I really liked the game. No front there. It was very impressive how Oscar managed, and and I can see myself in this very often. I mean, if we look at this game, I couldn't keep calm because I had to survive with my group, because I couldn't imagine that this 3-3 can die when I have so many forcing moves going on. Let me check. I think this was actually the last example today. We still do have some time. I want to look at something. Yeah, let's talk about Shimaris, because nowadays we want to often exchange something very early on, because it gives certainty that you get something out of it. So that's how this variation emerged. This is a trend throughout the last years, and from the AIs that they tell us this Shimari, if you don't do something right away, you might not get anything later. So things will change with surrounding moves, and if black has too many, then you cannot get the same variations here, because maybe black will fight really hard like this, and maybe black is then able to kill something. So that's why on Shimaris nowadays there is the theory that you should create a certain game pretty early on. That's at least what the AI is telling us. There is this, also this, oftentimes you see this move nowadays, right? The only reason is white wants to directly get something out from this. And this is a very common variation that, I mean, yeah, Antti is saying, not sure this is a theory, but this is a tendency for sure. Yeah, and I'm just trying to explain this tendency. So white wants to directly get some influence out of this. And if he doesn't do anything, maybe there is not a chance later. But this is also something you have to be careful about, because actually, if you don't do these attaches, you create more uncertainty also for the opponent. So earlier I was saying maybe black can kill like this, but it is not so clear. It is actually very risky. So that's something you should keep in mind when you play the opening. Don't just play these moves because you learned them and because you see everybody playing them, but you should play them because of the meaning behind it. And it is, in this case, the meaning is I want to cash in early on, and maybe you didn't realize that by that you're decreasing the amount of options later, because a game often also goes like this, and then white evades here, and that can be very complicated. So I suggest you to actually think about what kind of a player you are, and if you come to the conclusion that you like certainty and that you like variations that are very settled and there's no much not many questions up for later, then you should actually in the opening already think about how you can get variations. Which josekis are my type of josekis that I like to create few uncertainties? Or if you're the other player around, then actually this kind of attachment early on might not even be the thing you like the most, because you give the opponent the choice also, for example, to play here to make the corner very certain, and then like this game gets very clear early on, and maybe that's something you want to avoid if you like to be this type of player. Let's not forget this uncertainty thing, and what kind of player you are is only a choice when both variations are equally good in a sense. So yeah, you don't always have the choice. Sometimes you just, even if you don't like it, you have to create uncertainty, because otherwise you're just behind. I personally dislike any unnecessary early exchanges. Yeah, railroads the game. Yeah, that's true. So it makes the position kind of boring in a way sometimes, and that's what some people are really good at. But yeah, what I was saying earlier is that you don't always have the choice. So when you're behind, you definitely have to create certainty. Otherwise, there's often no way to win. Many people believe that if they just keep on playing normally, the opponent will make a mistake. But how can the opponent make a mistake if there are no difficult questions? So you have to ask difficult questions, and you have to create uncertain variations for a mistake to even happen. I mean, players can be really not so strong, but when you don't attack anything, everybody knows how to make some points. So you don't always have the choice, and I encourage you guys to think about this kind of concept a bit more in your games, and also as a preparation. Maybe at some point you will be quite good at knowing how to create uncertainties, so you should prepare your mind for, okay, in this game I want to maybe try it a bit more when you practice, and like that you can, I think you can broaden your game quite a bit. Bore opponent to death is my secret skill. Yeah, that's what I used to think as well, actually. But then I realized that I'm not the best player in very certain type of games. Actually, I make quite some mistakes on the end game part and stuff like that. So I realized that even though I might be afraid of uncertainty, I'm actually also not that bad at handling it sometimes. So you have to be, you actually have to think about it, and you have to look at your games. Which games did I win? Did I win the games that were boring and very certain? Let's not always call them boring, because there is rarely a very boring Go game. But yeah, you have to actually look at it. And I realized that actually I'm good at certain type of uncertainties, not maybe the many groups fighting part, but something about Co, for example, is something that I've found to be my strength, because the exchanges happening afterwards are always very uncertain, and it is a good way for me against also stronger players to get a lead, because they always want to win the Co, and I actually think about how to lose the Co as well, and how to get how to get a good exchange out from that. So that is an uncertainty that I found for myself that is quite powerful in my games. So if you can manage to find these type of strengths you have, and then you can try to push the game into that direction, and you will actually maybe win more. Want to become famous? Buy followers, primes, and viewers. Okay. Maybe let's not become famous like that, but by just doing normal Go lectures. And that concludes today's NGD lecture, basically. Make sure to check out our webpage if you don't know about it yet, and if you want to become a student. We're always happy to welcome new students, even though recently sometimes there is a lot of work, but it is very nice to have many students. And I guess 40 students recently, and growing, yes. So it is actually, I wasn't lying earlier when I said that recently this is one of the most frequently, or one of the nicest Go dojos you can visit. And thanks for listening, and make sure to tune in again in 2 weeks, when somebody else probably will be holding a lecture on something else. Bye bye.